Hey everyone, this is Dr. Fields. Happy Friday. It's the weekend, which is wonderful. So this is going to be part two of the four-part series that is discussing the four pillars of effective weight loss. For who? For people like us, people who have struggled for a long time with significant weight loss issues. And like I said yesterday, if you can at least address three of these aspects really well, you should definitely be making progress. But if you can address all four, then you are going to be making amazing progress. I promise you. Okay. Yesterday, we talked about the eating plan, the food plan. Today, we're going to talk about the exercise program. Now, keep in mind, psychology permeates each and every one of these areas in a major way, even your exercise program. I think I already made the case yesterday for your food plan. And for those of you who have good foreshadowing ability, you'll probably know that I'm going to make a similar case for the exercise program in terms of how psychology really fits into that. This exercise program is your exercise program. It is the program that you are going to do. There are so many different ways to create a food plan, and there are so many ways to create an exercise program. So let's talk about the three main types of exercise. There is resistance training, which you can do with your body weight, or you can do with machines that are weight loaded, or you can do with free weights. Then there is steady state cardio. That's the type of cardiovascular exercise that you typically think of. Running, walking on a treadmill, on an incline maybe, swimming. I'm trying to think of other ones off the top of my head. The elliptical machine, I always forget that one. There are many types, right? The stationary bike, cycling, many types of steady state cardio. And with certain adjustments, that can then morph into what we call HIIT exercise, which is high intensity interval training. I put HIIT exercise in a separate category. And the reason why I do this is because it's kind of like a hybrid between resistance training and steady state cardio. It's cardiovascular exercise, like the same types of exercises that you would do for steady state cardio, but with a little twist in that the way that you do it, alternating intervals of rest or low intensity with intervals of high intensity, which basically means you're exerting a lot of effort during the high intensity intervals. That gives you a very similar benefit to resistance training or resistance-based exercises, which is burning a lot of calories, not just during the workout, but after the workout. There is not so much of a post-exercise burn after steady state cardio. There's a little bit. Your heart rate will tend to be raised a little bit after for a period of time, right? But not nearly as much after HIIT exercises or resistance training, where your heart rate will be raised a lot more and you will be burning a lot more calories after those kinds of exercises. Okay. So today, what I want to talk about, where do you start? It's the same premise as with your food plan. You want to be thinking about what is a program I can stick with. First off, think of your lifestyle. Think of your job or your responsibilities if you have kids. Just think of your daily kind of activity schedule and what makes the most sense. Do you have a couple days that are a lot easier to fit in an exercise program? Okay, great, do that. Or do you only have a little bit of time each day? So then you would design a program where you're going to be doing a little bit of exercise each and every day. It doesn't really matter so much how you do this. At the end of the day, some exercise is much better than no exercise. And then, of course, it goes up from there, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. Even if this just happens to be a really hectic time right now for you, start doing something, start small. It is so much harder to start doing something than to go from doing a little something to a little more and a little more, et cetera, et cetera. So just get something going. You can always increase the number of days that you do the exercise or the amount of time that you do the exercise at a later time when your lifestyle is not so hectic. So this is all psychology. This is about your lifestyle, but more importantly, it's about you as a person. It's about being able to come up with an exercise program that fits your personality. That's one that you can stick with. It might not be a program that other people can stick with, but it's one that you can stick with. And in the same vein, there are other people that are doing programs that you couldn't stick with. And that is why psychology has everything to do with this. How many times have you had friends or loved ones or other people say to you, oh, this exercise program, I absolutely love it. It's so awesome. And you're just like, oh, geez, I don't think I could ever like doing that. Or maybe they even bring you along to one of their exercise classes and you just absolutely hate it. You're like, this is not for me at all. Or they bring you along to play a sport that they're really into where they're doing it consistently, like racquetball, something like this. And you're just like, oh, this is not for me. Or they bring you to the gym to just do some exercises with them. And that's not for you. Listen, just because what they're doing is not for you doesn't mean that you should give up and throw in the towel and say, exercise in general is not for me. That is quite an extrapolation, right? If you're saying like this program I don't like, and I don't think I could stick with doing every day or every other day, and then you make that jump to then say, so therefore, exercising in general is not for me. And I find people make this error all the time. They're like, oh, exercise is not for me. How come? Well, I've gone to the gym and I've done some of those exercises. And so therefore exercise is not for me. And I'm like, all you've proved to me is that you don't like working out on the machines at the gym. You haven't made any case for exercise as a general, humongous category, really, of that not being right for you in any way, shape, or form. This has got to be individualized. It has to be personalized. You have to find things that you like. If you find any kind of movement-based activities, that counts as exercise and you are burning calories. And then it just has to do with looking at the degree. If you start off small, that's totally fine. That's commendable that you're starting something. But then what you want to look at is, can I increase this in some way? Okay, can I make progress in this in some way? So the way psychologists assess behavior is with this acronym that we call FIDS. And FIDS, which is plural, stands for the F, frequency, the I, intensity, and the D, duration. Okay, so that's FIDS. If you're starting off 2 days a week and you're having a really hectic lifestyle, then what you want to do is eventually see if you can add a third day or a fourth day. That's frequency. If you're already at 5 or 6 days, but you're only working out maybe 20 minutes a day, then you look at duration. Can I move that up to 30 minutes a day, maybe 40? And if you're like, my time is limited, I can find about 20 minutes every few days, and that is it, then what you might be able to do, or which you most likely will be able to do, unless you have some kind of, physical issue, is upping the intensity. And that's where high intensity interval training comes from. You'd want to focus on those kind of exercises, or just keeping a higher intensity while you're doing steady state cardio. You could do that as well. Or you could do resistance-based exercises, which really gives you a lot of bang for your buck, because those exercises, they are going to lead to much more of a post-exercise burn, a post-workout burn, and therefore burning more calories than, let's say, steady state cardio, right? So if you don't have as much time, look to make qualitative changes rather than quantitative changes, okay? Now, we've talked about the three major categories. We've talked about looking at increasing it in different ways, from frequency, intensity, duration, and playing around with those different parameters that best fit into your lifestyle and that best work with you, because that's a personality thing too, right? Some people, they don't like intense exercise. It kind of like freaks them out, but they can do a moderate base exercise for an extended period of time. So you're going to be one that's focused more on duration. You're going to do it for like a half an hour to maybe 40 minutes, at least a few days a week. Other people, they have a short attention span, they get bored easily, and they just want to go in, get it done, and they don't mind having to really bust their hump a little bit. And for them, they'll look more towards a shorter amount of exercise time with more intensity, okay, more rigor. That's a personality thing. And another personality thing has to do, most importantly, with what exercises. You don't like running. You don't have to like running. There's a lot of, these weight loss girls on the internet that are like, oh, you need to be running. You need to be running. No, you don't need to be running. You need to be doing some sort of exercise. I could see the argument for that, but you don't need to be running. You could do many types of exercise. And then some of us don't have great knees, so running is not the best option for us. So then you think about other things like swimming. Do you like swimming? You might love swimming, but maybe you don't live near a pool, or maybe that just doesn't work out logistically. Do you like cycling, getting on the bicycle outside? Or maybe it's time to invest in a stationary bike that's right there in your living room, and you can jump on that if you like cycling. Do you like sports? There are so many different leagues you could join if you like group sports, although that does tend to be a little bit more difficult to do logistically, because there's other people involved, and you have to make sure that the matches or the competitions don't get canceled for whatever reason, and that kind of thing. But there's so many things you can do. Be creative. Start by thinking about what you used to like doing as a kid, and then think about from there all the way up to the present time. What did you do when you were in middle school? What kind of sports did you like when you were in high school? What about college? What about maybe a couple of years ago? Start thinking about something that you could do consistently. That's the most important thing. Maybe you don't like exercising by yourself, so maybe there's a local gym that has exercise classes, and that gets you going. That camaraderie, that social aspect. Maybe you love like martial arts, and so it's time to join a martial arts school, and that's something that I absolutely love. I do Muay Thai. I've been doing it for many years now. I absolutely love that camaraderie. Feels like you're part of a family. It's amazing. And so maybe you do something like that, which you'll burn a lot of calories doing. If that sounds too intense or too rigorous, there are so many other options. Start thinking, go on the internet and research types of cardio. It could start with a simple Google search, right? And just look into different types of exercises. There may be one you've never done before that you will absolutely love. I never did Muay Thai before, and when I started, I was nervous. I didn't know if I'd like it. It seemed a little scary, and I love it now. So that's the kind of thing you got to look at. Or maybe you've never done weight training and you always kind of shied away from it because it looks too intense, but you didn't realize there's so many different ways to do weight training. You don't have to be these guys that are, going all out for 5 or 6 reps, or, these, super strong women that are doing like, 100 pull-ups or what have you. You don't need to do that kind of level of exercising. You can start off really slow. You start off with light weights. You do higher repetitions so that it's not as intense till you get used to being able to bear heavier weights. You start off with maybe even body weight exercises. There's many things you can do and many things that you might love. One thing that you want to make sure you never do, that drives me crazy when people say it, is, oh no, I don't think that's for me. I don't think that's for me. You know what that tells me? They've never done it. How could you possibly know that is not for you if you've not tried it? Unless you can try to make a case and say, I've done something super similar to that. Like if you're like, oh no, Muay Thai is not for me. And I'm like, how do you know? And like, well, I've done Taekwondo and I don't really like that. And I'm like, okay, all right, maybe the martial arts thing as a general category is not for you. But really try to make sure that you catch yourself with any of those kinds of false assumptions. And they're false because they're not based on evidence. They're only true assumptions if you try it and you give it a good go, right? You give it an honest try, and then you conclude that it's not for you. All right, this is Dr. Fields. This is part 2 of the series. I'm going to be putting up part 3 most likely tomorrow, and part 4 hopefully by Sunday. Have a great weekend. I'll see you soon.